well, we got to go back historically, and that is as Westchester developed, they did so in a way that was not comprehensive. So everything was done, and because New York is a home rule state, every municipality is in control of its own zoning and planning. So when you have something that is done, let's say in Ossining, a development, they're basically looking at what it is there. But when the development is put in, there's no regard necessarily for what's downriver or upriver, and that's been the problem historically in this county. Having said that, we recognize the flooding. We have, every time it rains now, it's like, okay, the Hutch, the Sawmill, the Bronx River, they're all going to be closed. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. It is tremendously difficult for businesses because if people can't get there, obviously you don't have bodies in the store, no one's going to spend money. It's very, very inconvenient. The problem with some of these rivers and brooks and tributaries is that in order to put your pinky toe in it, let alone go in and do work, you need a permit from oftentimes the Army Corps of Engineers in Washington, sometimes the DEC in New York. And we had said, look, we're willing to go in there, and there's two problems here. One is money, of course, and the other is getting the approval process. In June, I was down in Washington, and we went to the Army Corps of Engineers to talk about some of these issues. We said, look, there are enormous issues all over Westchester. The Sheldrake River and over on the Long Island Sound, and you know about the problems over there. You can go up and down this county all over the place. And we get down, and this is so typical. I mean, if you want the definition of bureaucrat, here it is. And go down there, and we're talking about these issues. And they say, yes, we're very familiar with that. Oh, all right, good. Well, we're going to get somewhere here. So what can we do? Well, we've been studying this. All right, good. When did you start the studying? 1953. Seriously. Eisenhower's picture was on the wall. 1953. So we're sort of saying, well, what decade do we actually start doing work? And you know, their response, and it's very much like the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. Anytime you go to any of these agencies, because nobody's in charge, it's always like this. It's the Army Corps saying, well, Congress saying it's the Army Corps. Then you go in the state, it's this. It's been very, very frustrating. And I've only been in, 20 months, whatever it is, and I'm already banging my head against the wall. I'm completely fed up with meetings. I don't want to go to any more stupid flooding meetings. We know where it floods. Now, how are we going to fix it? So the issue is, and we're working on something right now, and we're just trying to go through some of the legal ramifications for it, but we hope to have an announcement fairly soon on some of the stuff that we look to do in this county. We do, though, have already 5 projects that are underway. None are around here. They're in different parts of the county. But part of this gets down to almost 3 issues. Number one is when you have these bodies of water, they need to be cleaned because you get debris in there and it clogs up. The drains get clogged up. It creates problems. And that has successfully worked in some areas where they've actually cleaned it out, and it's, you know, it's not a complete remediation, but it's helped. 2 is dredging. And dredging is just getting those big machines and, you know, scraping it up and getting back down to the riverbed and get rid of all the silt and the junk. That's expensive and requires permits. And then the third thing sometimes is rechanneling the river or waterway. And that, as you can imagine, is very expensive. And you think it's hard to get your toe in the water. Imagine trying to rechannel a body of water. So those are usually the 3 options. The first one is more doable. It's sometimes short-term as we work on some of the longer-term. But in anything we do, it does come down to money. So if there's federal money, we're going after it. But oftentimes, too, there needs to be, as the law is set up, too, a community match. So the county can put in some money, but the local municipalities, if they want flood remediation projects, have to be willing to put in money as well. The question is the housing settlement in 2009 between my predecessor, the county board, and the federal government. The issue in a nutshell is this. Westchester was sued in 2006 by a group in New York City claiming that the county, in essence, falsified its documents to the federal government in some of its certifications. That the county, in accepting money from Housing and Urban Development, didn't do certain things, including taking race into consideration as an impediment to fair housing. Now, in the pretrial stuff, there was no admission of guilt on either side, no findings of guilt or anything like that. HUD claims and still claims that the county is segregated and discriminates. There was no finding of fact in any way, shape, or form by the county or by the federal government. The lawsuit stated, and the agreement that was ratified said, that the county over 7 years, beginning last year, has to build 750 units of fair and affordable housing over that 7 years, and the county put $51 million aside to do it. There were a lot of things in that agreement that I vehemently disagreed with. For instance, there are restrictions on the number of units that can go for senior citizens, that we have to aggressively market these units outside Westchester County when we have people in Westchester County who need them and want them. So there are things, particular things in the agreement which I disagree with. However, when I became county executive, it was my role and my duty to uphold the agreement, and we are. We are building units. In fact, there is one up in Cortland. And Cortland, being one of the eligible communities, stepped up, a developer stepped up, there were properties that were found, and it's being built. And we're doing that throughout the county. So as of today, of those 750, we have 204 units already approved by the federal monitor overseeing this, which makes us almost a third of the way. The benchmarks, by the way, are after 2 years. So after this year, we have to have 100 units with financing in place. So we're well ahead of schedule. And we are doing everything cooperatively with our local municipalities, because instead of fighting everybody, we're trying to work cooperatively, and it's been working. May 13th of this year, a date I'll never forget. May 13th, we get a letter from the federal government, from HUD, saying, we understand and we agree that you're basically doing what you're supposed to do, and what we're demanding of you now is, quote, outside the four corners of the agreement, so not in the settlement, not in the contract, but we're going to demand you do the following anyway. Of the remaining 750, 375, you're going to have to make it 3 bedrooms or more and placed next to above average schools. Now, what that does is takes the cost from $50 million to about $100 million. They want us to send a letter, me to send a letter to each municipality in the 31 eligible communities.